most murderers are caught and tried. This gives the victim's family closure, but it doesn't bring back the life they stole. What about murderers who escaped? 3 evil people got away with murder and never confessed until they were dying. One victim was a child for no reason, and another was a long-time abuser. Others died for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Gina Brooks, 14, of Fredericktown, Missouri, was enjoying the summer evening by watching her brother's baseball game on August 5, 1989. She was a beautiful, blonde-haired, green-eyed teenager. She returned home after the game, then decided to visit her boyfriend. He lived 6 blocks away. Gina had said goodnight to her mother, Sydney, and Cindy had gone to bed. She left on her bike at 10 p.m. after telling her brother she was going out. 2 a.m. came after many hours. Cindy woke up at night and checked Gina's room, which was empty. She realized Gina hadn't returned then. Her frantic mother reported her daughter missing to the police. Police searched the town for her. They found her bicycle abandoned 5 blocks from her house, but she was gone. To locate Gina, police questioned neighbors. Gina was last seen near a local church. 3 men in a blue station wagon approached her as she stood near her bike. They followed her. She got off her bike and ran when they got out of the car to talk to her, probably realizing she was in danger. Gina's boyfriend heard screams and saw the station wagon speeding toward the highway. Her family desperately wanted Gina back, so the whole town searched day and night for her. They searched caves and woods and hung posters, but they never found the girl, who was supposed to start 8th grade soon after she disappeared. This huge loss terrified and traumatized the small town of 4,000 people. Was that it? September 1996 changed everything. St. Louis Hospital had a dying patient. He had AIDS and cancer. He knew he was dying. Brian Squires was the patient. In his final days, he told nurses about 3 brutal unsolved murders. He killed 9-year-old Angie Houseman, who disappeared in November 1993. Angie was from St. Louis suburb St. Anne. After 9 days, her brutally beaten body was found tied to a tree. She was brutally beaten. Bryant hid his accomplice. Bryant revealed that Nathan Williams committed the other murders. In 1975, 14-year-old Williams killed 23-year-old Laura Dinwiddie. Laura was a kind volunteer who taught inner-city kids sign language. Her naked corpse was found. She was brutally slashed. Finally, Gina's disappearance night, he was one of 3 station wagon men who confronted the team. He drove. He says he and Nathan Williams and Timothy Bello kidnapped Gina, ate her throat, and disposed of her body. Bryant died shortly after these horrific confessions. What about Nathan and Timothy, still alive? Both men were arrested in 1999 for Gina's murder. Timothy was a repeat offender who often exploited women. Timothy admitted to murdering Gina to police. He even described her body's location in his father's 96-acre freezer. Tragically, Timothy's Gina's death charges were dropped in 1999, and he was later charged with lying to the FBI. He received a 2.5-year sentence of 30 months. Nathan Williams' Gina case charges were dropped, making this even worse. Law enforcement didn't believe Brian's deathbed confessions, and that Nathan committed 2 murders. They even claimed Bryant's confessions were invalid because he confessed to his nurses instead of the police. The nurses initially didn't tell the police about Bryant's confessions because they didn't trust him to tell the truth. Nathan had to pay for his other crimes, including abusing a child a month after Gina's disappearance. He also disappeared 12-year-old Tammy Surdom. Tammy, from St. Charles, Missouri, disappeared in early August 1975. Her family didn't report her missing because Tammy always ran away. After a long time, her parents realized she had been kidnapped and notified the police. Nathan confessed to kidnapping, abusing, and burying young Tammy. Never found. His other charges resulted in a minimum 30-year prison sentence. Jefferson County Correctional Center in Missouri holds him. Story 2. The horror story of Geraldine Kelly. Geraldine Kelly was not your typical early 1990s woman. She was small and dark-haired, but she had tattoos, kept attack dogs, and sometimes wore a huge boa constrictor around her neck. Her history made her unapproachable, but why? John Kelly and Geraldine met as children. They married and had a daughter and son. Their marriage started well, but a wedding in 1981 changed everything. John fought other wedding guests after drinking too much. The fight killed his brother-in-law, but how is unknown. John moved his family across the country out of fear of being charged with murder. They moved to California, where he worked at a motel, but he was still drinking and fought with Geraldine, causing their 2 children to move away. John allegedly abused Geraldine for years, turning her cold. Avenge her husband. She killed him and froze him for over 6 years. No one, including law enforcement or Jerry's family, knew what she did to John for years. She told her children that their dad died in a car, and they believed her. Jerry, dying of breast cancer, confessed 6 years later. Her daughter would report her husband's murder after she told her. Police checked Jerry's freezer and found her ex remains. Husband's due to his unique tattoos, his decomposed body was identified. Jerry had died, so she couldn't avenge her husband's murder. Story 3. The horror story of Russell Smreker. Lincoln College student Michael Mansfield was 20 in 1975. He was a diligent student but had legal issues. He fell with stolen goods. His dormitory record albums were stolen. The district attorney pity-dealed him. He offered to drop all charges if he turned in the goods seller. Michael agreed and turned in 21-year-old Russell Smreker, knowing his testimony would free him. His holiday with his parents began normally. He left home on New Year's Eve and disappeared. Police had no leads because he vanished. It eventually went cold. Another oddity occurred the following year. This time in Lincoln, Illinois, where Michael had been attending school. On June 2nd, 51-year-old Lincoln resident Ruth Martin hadn't shown up to work or called to cancel. This wasn't her. Richard ran home from work to check on his wife. He found a bullet and blood stain in their garage. His wife was nowhere to be found. Like Michael, police had little evidence to identify a suspect. Ruth's abandoned car in a nearby city had more blood in the trunk. After that, another tragedy struck Lincoln, already reeling from recent crime. Police received a 911 call on October 9th, just months after Ruth's disappearance. Jay and Robin Fry, 25-year-olds, invited them to their home. Both were gunned down. Robin was sadly pregnant with their first child. Police, under pressure to solve these crimes, were searching for a motive and a link between Ruth Martin's murder and the Frys. All of these people were well-liked and had no known enemies, but they eventually discovered that Jay Fry and Ruth Martin had a surprising connection. Jay and Ruth would testify against Russell's rear car. A minor incident at Jay's grocery store started it. Jay chased Russell through the store and parking lot after catching him stealing. Russell threw the stolen items into Ruth Martin's car to hide them. A $4 steak package. What happened to missing Michael Mansfield? Michael was expected to testify against Russell for a different reason, police discovered. He vanished before he could. All three crimes had a clear suspect. Russell was arrested and convicted for the murders. He served 2 life sentences. He repeatedly refused to discuss the slayings with investigators. He confessed to the murders on his deathbed at 56 in 2011. He said Ruth Martin's body was under a highway under construction, but he wouldn't say where Michael Mansfield's was. After confessing, Russell died.